My parents didn't allow my husband to sleep in the same room as me when we were staying at their house because he's white, and my mom freaked out when she found us sleeping on the couch together. Posted by you/throwawaymom11_. My 24F husband 24M and I are visiting my family. My husband, kids, and I were getting ready to go to our room for bed when my parents started acting really awkward, like something was off. I asked them what was wrong, and my mom quietly told me that my husband should sleep on the couch in the living room. I was a bit shocked because. Why? Apparently, my dad doesn't feel comfortable. I called her and my dad weird and told my husband to ignore them. We finally put our kids to sleep and were getting ready for bed when my mom barged into the room while we were changing and said that she didn't want us in the same room alone in her house. My husband was freaking terrified at this point because he was in the middle of changing, so he left for the couch, and my mom said she was sorry but wasn't in the mood to deal with my dad's complaining all night. I pointed out that my younger sister, 21F, and her husband have slept in the same room at their house multiple times and she's never said anything. She goes, "Well, your husband is white, so your dad feels weird." I was over it, so I said fine. I got up at like 4 a.m. to drink some water and saw my husband wide awake just lying on the couch. He said the couch is uncomfortable as hell, which, yes, it is, so I sat down next to him, and we both accidentally fell asleep. I woke up later to my mom freaking out. She was whisper yelling, so she wouldn't wake up my dad, and asked if we're that codependent on each other that we can't spend one night alone. I tried explaining that it was a mistake, but she kept calling me disrespectful and said that I was selfish, etc. I was upset, but my son called for me, so we ended our conversation. Now I'm wondering if I really am the jerk in this situation. My mom says I am because I was being selfish, disrespectful, and completely disregarded how difficult her life would have become if my dad found us. My whole thing is that it was an accident. I'm 24, my dad is being weird, and my sister's husband doesn't have to do this, so why does mine? Am I the jerk for accidentally sleeping on the couch with my husband? Top/relevant comments. Additional info from up. My family and I are South Asian. Yes, I know a lot of this has to do with my husband being white and them being racist/prejudiced. I called my parents weird/strange/awkward because of what they were doing, glaring at each other, swearing at each other under their breath, randomly going quiet out of nowhere, etc. They do this pretty often and have been doing it for as long as I can remember. So much that my sister and I call it the weird mood. Like, keep an eye out for mom and dad, they're in their weird mood. Commenter. Not the jerk. WTF. What kind of shenanigans is this? I don't see why your dad has any issues with you sleeping in the same room with your husband. You guys have kids, so clearly sex has happened. And why is it any different that he's white? Why are your parents racist? Do they treat your kids differently because they're half white? If they do, you need to step up and protect your children from your bigoted parents. And step up for your husband, too. Ops response. Right? I'm glad that I'm not the only one who thinks my parents are being very strange. Like, I don't know what they're so afraid of considering we have literal kids. They treat my children well. If they even dared to say something to them, I would definitely not be on good terms with them. I'm the first person in my family to marry a white person, so I understood the initial shock when I told them, but that was years ago and I thought they had gotten used to it. Because of you know what, this is my husband's first time staying over, so I didn't know this was going to be an issue at all. I'm still pissed, but my husband keeps telling me it's fine and that we're leaving anyway. However, now that I've gotten a few comments, I'm thinking of talking to my parents about how weird they were being. Commenter 2. South Asian parents are weird and have a weird perception of white people. I'm white and my husband is South Asian, and before his family even knew about me, he told me their perception of white women was that they will marry a South Asian man only to divorce him and steal all his money. I know in South Asian culture you're not supposed to disrespect your elders, especially your parents, but this is completely unacceptable of them to pull this kind of crap on you. Did they want you to have an arranged marriage and you were like, nah, I MMA marry a white man? I saw that you're Muslim also, so I'm surprised they even let you marry your husband without him converting. My in-laws wouldn't allow us to get married unless I converted, but my husband is a non-practicing Muslim, and I was agnostic prior to us being married, so I'm more of a favorite. Ops response. My dad never mentioned marriage, but my mom used to say things like she didn't care who, but I was only allowed to marry a Muslim man. And yeah, that is the key word here. I told my mom that I'm going to get married regardless of whether they approve or not, and we got pretty personal, and she eventually accepted. I don't know how she convinced my dad to not make a fuss during my wedding, etc., but she did somehow. I do believe in God, I guess, and the prophets and all that. It's been drilled into me since I was a kid, So it's hard not to believe, if that makes sense, but I'm technically non-practicing as well, so hey. Adds an edit to her post. I'm getting a lot of people asking the same thing, so I'm just going to copy one of my replies. My kids were not in danger. We live over 8 hours away, it was snowing heavily, and the roads would have been icy and pitch black. It was after 11 p.m., my sons are 2 and 3, and the nearest hotel is pretty far away. Not to mention, my husband and I had been driving for literal hours and were completely exhausted. Trust me, we definitely thought about it, and both my husband and I decided to stay the night. Update 2 days later. So, a lot of people ask me for an update, and since I don't really want to think about this whole situation for some time, I decided to quickly make a post before I put this entire thing behind me. A lot of you were understandably harsh, which I appreciate, and I admit that I should have been more firm and shouldn't have let my husband sleep on the couch at all. Yes, I didn't handle the situation too well, but I honestly did the best that I could given the fact that my mom was yelling and my children were starting to get irritated and were very close to waking up and crying. We needed my mom to leave so that our kids wouldn't wake up or cry, and so my husband decided to just go to the couch. I'm also quite aware that my parents were being prejudiced and racist toward my husband. I never excused it. The only reason I was calling my parents weird or awkward is because they were acting like that, as in, they were fighting each other quietly or in their heads. This is what I meant every time I said they were acting weird. Now for the update. I told my husband that I was really sorry for how my parents treated him. He told me he genuinely didn't care and that he's sorry that he's causing so much trouble. Yeah. No. I made sure he realized that this situation is not his fault. We had a heart-to-heart talk and eventually decided that we'd talk to my parents together when my dad finally came home. So basically, I told them that they disrespected my husband last night. That we both are married, have kids, and are planning on having more kids. We were going to sleep in the same room in the same bed just like other married couples, and if they had a problem with that, then they needed to figure it out, because while I made a mistake by not standing my ground the first time, I wasn't going to let it happen again. I told them I was 100% willing to go no contact again and that I wasn't afraid to do so. My dad immediately started yelling at my husband. He called my husband weak, pathetic, and said he wasn't good enough for me. He also said that my husband ruined me and my future and that I'm now dirty and sinful and all that. I shut that down right away. I told my dad that he was weak and pathetic, not my husband, who has been there for me and done things for me that my dad would never in his life do for anyone. That's when my mom finally decided to jump in. She told my dad to stop acting creepily obsessive over me, that I'm not his doll and I'm not his property. She mentioned a few disturbing things I'd rather not repeat as I'm still having trouble processing them myself, but she also called him out for being jealous of my husband. My dad left the house, and according to my mom, he probably went to a hotel or something. My mom apologized for everything. She even apologized to my husband for when she barged into the room while we were changing. She said that my dad and she had been fighting all day and that she wrongly took her anger out on us. She said she understood if we didn't want to stay any longer, and for the sake of, well, everything, we decided to leave. And that's that. I don't really have much to say because my mind's been kind of empty. I'm just numb and sad but also relieved. My dad and I have had a crappy relationship since I was 18, but knowing what he really thinks of me and my family hurts a lot. And it isn't even because of our culture or religion. It's just him being a crappy person, and because of this, I'm going to go no contact with my parents. Again. I didn't expect so much attention, and I'm admittedly really overwhelmed. I don't use Reddit at all and wrote my post out of frustration. Thank you all for your comments and direct messages. I know that there are things that a lot of you just won't get due to cultural differences, and I didn't include a few details for privacy reasons, but those things don't really matter. We're finally home after the most exhausting days of our lives, and again, I feel so incredibly numb. My husband keeps checking up on me in fear that I'm going to have a breakdown, but I just don't feel anything. My mother-in-law and father-in-law are coming over to babysit the kids while we go out for dinner since restrictions have been lifted, so I guess I'm happy for that. I don't know, but this state of numbness happens to me sometimes and it usually passes in a day or two, so I'll be fine. This is getting very long, so I'm going to end it here. I'm sorry if I skipped a few things, but I hope you guys understand that I'm not in the right state of mind. Stay safe, everyone. /relevant comments. Commenter. Good for you for standing up for your husband, especially since he was ready to let it go, which would have made it tempting and easy to not do the right thing. I'm so sorry for both of you that you had to go through that. Your father has some serious issues. It scares me a little that you can say that your mom thinks he's jealous of your husband, in ways that read very, very creepy from the context. It makes me wonder what the worst things are that you can't say. Please take compassion and support from this internet stranger. Your numbness sounds like a shock or trauma response. If you're not already in therapy, I suggest you start. It sounds like you already had a lot to process and just got a whole bunch more dropped in your lap. Best of luck, Op. Commenter 2. Have to downvote since Op skipped a lot of things which were part of the story and called us ignorant and incapable of understanding her culture. What does she think? That everyone here is white or American? No Asians here? Or people with similar conservative, racist cultural backgrounds? Or that white or American people cannot understand other cultures? Staying with her parents, Op has turned pretty discriminatory towards others. And what privacy? This is Reddit. Is her social security or passport tagged to her Reddit account or what? I think Op just doesn't like being honest or facing the truth and likes wasting other people's time. When everyone spent time to give her wonderful advice the first time by telling her to stand up for her husband more, she doesn't like giving updates, and when she does, it's half-baked truth. Op's response: I didn't call anyone ignorant. I just said that if you aren't South Asian or Muslim, a lot of things may not make sense, which is perfectly okay. I also said that it doesn't matter in the end either, as culture and religion don't excuse anything. By privacy, I mean that I don't feel comfortable sharing everything in too much detail. I don't know why this is an issue. I know I didn't defend my husband properly over the couch situation. I'm well aware, and I feel guilty over it, which I know is my fault. I tried making things right, and I know a lot of you think I don't deserve my husband, which, yes, I honestly think no one deserves him. There is nobody as kind and wonderful as him. And what do you mean by half-truth? Did you want me to tell everyone that my dad thinks I'm a disgusting WHRE who's only successful because I sell my body to white men? That my own father objectifies me and has said horrific things about my body? That he has tried doing things to me and I never noticed? That my mom knew and never said anything because she was scared? I'm sorry that I didn't tell everyone the full truth, but I'm still trying to process this, for F's sake. I'm trying so hard not to shut down because I have my kids and my husband, and they shouldn't have to deal with this. I appreciated everyone's advice, and so many of you were extremely kind and understanding. I even appreciate the harsh ones because, like I said, I needed to hear it. I read everyone's comments and direct messages and really tried to take everything into consideration to be a better person, and I'm still trying to be better despite everything. I'm sorry if that isn't enough for you and everyone else who's sending me similar messages. Op adds an edit to her post. I'm still in contact with my mom. I can't force her to leave my dad, but I am helping her and will be there for her if she ever needs me. I appreciate everyone's comments, advice, and kind words. Thank you so very much. Unfortunately, I'm going to be logging out as I'm getting a few messages that are actually really hurtful. Turns out my husband was right, Lamau. I suppose I am about to have a breakdown, as the things that my mom told me are beginning to freak me out and overwhelm me. Like a few of you said, perhaps it's time for therapy. Thanks once again for all the advice and kindness.